Hello, beautiful angels. It's such an incredible honor always to be here with you in this lifetime on this planet. I have been sharing here through this Green Tara platform very often and mainly since 2020 when we had the biggest breakthrough in our reality. And so we're going to take a look at this huge ascension, really quantum leap that we have just experienced. I know that many seers around the world are seeing it, and of course we all have the beautiful creative potential to use whatever vocabulary we can, come up with to describe the changes. But I know that those who see are seeing these huge changes that have taken place in our reality. And so when you listen to these different updates from different people around the world, you can just really know that the entire fabric of our reality has changed, and that it was because you came into this world and everybody added their piece. Maybe sometimes just doing, a little meditation with a group of friends, maybe doing some grid work, and just really being here is what caused and made possible this incredible change. We did receive a lot of course, intervention from the beings who have been helping us from behind the scene. And so we'll talk about it a little bit today. For me, this journey, of course, like for all of you, really started with the moment we embodied on this planet. And I remember a lot of, obviously, these multidimensional memories, and that's why I can speak about it. But I know that all of you have whatever memories you needed to have for this lifetime to equip you properly. So, this planet was really disconnected from divine reality. And I do have a visual here just to give you an idea. I know that we are part of a very big cosmic game, and part of the cosmic game was actually quite a big drama when some beings decided that they wanted to have a piece of reality for themselves without actually following divine design. Divine design is a flow. Divine design actually is a constant spiral where something spirals out as love, and then it spirals back in also as love. So that was a flow that was ever expanding and then back into contraction. We call that the out-breath and in-breath of God. So you could say that this all would come from source, and that it would spiral out, and then eventually after who knows what time, cosmic time, it would spiral back in, and we would call it a cosmic cycle. Well, some beings decided that they really wanted to stop the flow. They didn't want to go with that flow. They didn't want to be part of divine will. They didn't want to be part of design. And so we have been speaking about these beings quite a bit, and now is the time to actually introduce them, actually even individually, and we will do that in a moment. But these beings decided that they would take a bit of creation, divine creation. So part of the divine creation was a beautiful planet that originally had the name Maravati. Today we know her as Mother Earth. And so we are returning to the original design. So that's why we have introduced this beautiful, really song of remembrance, the hymn of the new earth, but knowing that the new earth is not so new, and that actually the new earth is the ancient earth. And so we are coming back to the ancient future. So back into the future. And so in the ancient original divine creation, Maravati was a part of divine reality, part of the divine matrix. She was part of the flow. Human beings were completely different from what we know them to be today. But again, as all changes on this planet, we too change. But not only did they capture a planet, they actually captured what we would also maybe call a universe. And so they captured not only what we today know as the third dimension and matter, but they also captured the astral plane. And they created this recycling system that we got to know as reincarnation. And so reincarnation was actually unnatural, and we will have to now remember that actually to reincarnate means to come back into the physical form again and again and again. and that was a trap. But actually what is natural for beings, it's continuity of consciousness, which can take on different embodiment. So there is a continuity of consciousness. It's almost like a stream of consciousness that we are, that embodies and is not dictated by some kind of survival of a body. The body itself is liberated, no longer to be born and die, especially not through disease or suffering, but actual embodiment as free will choice, which we really haven't had. So a lot of people said that we did have free will. We didn't have much free will. It's like when you are a prisoner in a prison, and you could say the prisoner within a prison does have some kind of free will, and that's pretty much the free will that we had. The free will was so limited by the prison itself. The only beings who did have much more free will are the beings who remained connected with divine reality, even though they incarnated in the prison. And we would call those, of course, avatars. So you can see the huge hoax, this prison, how it played out. We can call it the false matrix. Some people call it the phantom matrix. It was a reality created by the being that we have known from Yogananda's writings as Satan, but he also had many different names, and this being was very, very real. But he was not the only one, of course, because a lot of beings felt drawn to that negative energy, and so we would say that this being actually had forces of darkness that reported to him. It was a very patriarchal energy, but it doesn't mean it was only men or beings that would be in male bodies, but it was also women and beings that embodied or incarnated in female bodies, but many of them never incarnated here on planet Earth, actually. Many of them remained, and the vast majority of them remained invisible to humanity. And they remained in what we would call then the fourth dimension from which they operated. And they operated in ways that are unimaginable to those who obviously haven't seen them. But when you were able to see them, it would be shocking. And so it was a prison without really people knowing that it was a prison. And of course, that's so intelligent when you think about it. So this force was incredibly, we would say, intelligent, because it was capable of creating something like what many saw as a prison planet without the prisoners knowing that they are, and giving them the illusion, of course. The illusion was the free choice, and the illusion was the freedom when there was no freedom, was very limited. So the mystics who embodied here and they were free, for example, Anandamayi, they would describe it, they couldn't really tell us the full story because there was not the time when this false matrix could even end. So they would still embody here, like Anandamayi and Yogananda and Swami Kaleshwar, or, Uncle Issa, Jesus. So they would incarnate here, but they knew that they are incarnating into really a prison planet. And so even their free will was limited, because it was not the time to end it, and you could not end it until now. And it has been dismantled, and the dismantling really started massively on 11/11 last year. And since then, many people are seeing into the fourth dimension, of course, and they're seeing two different things. They are seeing the residue of these forces which operated through technology. So they're seeing into the fourth dimension and seeing the technology that operated this false matrix. Very similar to what you would see in the movie, The Matrix. Very, very similar. I think the movie is genius. And despite all the violence, even though violence, of course, was part of the false matrix, actually violence was the force or the energy that the guards of the false matrix and the original creators of the false matrix, they loved violence. And so this psychotic energy, really, you can now see it in the fourth dimension. You see the residue of it. So you see the forces that are technological, that still belong to the forces of darkness that operated this world. But people are also seeing the forces of light in the fourth dimension too, and beyond, of course. The forces of darkness, they use technology more than we can imagine. And so they operated through technology, and they actually were sending programs. And I mean codes. I mean coding. So I'm not a technologically oriented person, but we all know that we have coding in computers. So this type of coding was actually used to transmit programs of suffering to humanity. And because they weakened our electromagnetic field, they absolutely had an incredible process of weakening humanity for millions of years, so that we do not know who we are. And so one of the things that they weakened was deliberately weaken our physicality and confuse our senses, manipulate our central nervous system, manipulate our physical bodies, manipulate our senses, but also manipulate our own electromagnetic field. And so that was very successful, of course. And when you weaken someone's electromagnetic field, they are susceptible to those false programs. So these false programs were emanated to us by the beings that we have known in Gnostic tradition as Archons, basically the rulers of the false matrix. And they were using technology to emanate these codes of suffering to humanity. I know that probably all of us can imagine someone very, very, very psychotic behind all of this, and we will speak about these beings. But imagine like the craziest psycho operating a world where the suffering of many gives the being actually pleasure. So, we have to really expand our imagination to be able to imagine the evil that operated this world. We are talking about like the ultimate evil that existed within this cosmic cycle. So we cannot limit it by our goodness. And usually people are, limited by their own goodness and saying that can't be. How could that be? How could anyone allow it? But of course, cosmic evil was operating completely from this psychotic kind of energy. So many of us are obviously mystics who have been, meditating to uncover this big truth within us and through us. And that was never desirable, of course, within this matrix. But this lifetime was different. This lifetime was going to be completely different, and this is how it all started. So these beings that we have known as Archons, and that's a very nice name to call them, let's just keep calling them Archons. It doesn't have, the big energy that normally we feel when we say the word evil. These beings actually manipulated our planetary grids, also our planetary axis, and that led to their ability to disconnect this world from divine matrix. They couldn't disconnect us completely, so in a way they broke our planetary grid in a way that the Earth was barely surviving, but surviving enough to exist. So the Earth used to be part of the divine matrix, and the divine matrix is like a beautiful web of life that permeates the entire cosmos and permeates the universes. And because it's a beautiful web, so you've seen a spider web. So if the spider web was perfectly intact and had all the lines of light connecting through the nodes, because that's the web of life that exists within cosmos, then that would be interconnectedness of all life. That would be constant exchange of love light within that web. And so when this web was perfect, all the lines of love light would be interconnected through nodes. So where the lines meet, a node comes into being. A node is where these lines meet. So it's a meeting point for energy. And because everything was love light, it would be a wonderful communication of love light. So when they broke a piece off, they broke this web. With that, they broke our planetary grid. And so we were hanging on a thread, still connecting us to divine reality, but mainly disconnected from it. They used technology to do that. So then our planetary grids became actually a trap. Through the manipulation of the planetary grid, no longer could beings come here very easily and be sustained by divine reality, because they would be incarnating into a broken planet where the grid of the earth was actually sending the wrong information to people so that they are in illusion and in amnesia. This is actually a problem, because when high-level beings come into a grid that is so broken, they come with their divine DNA. Divine DNA is our cosmic DNA, which exists beyond the physical, and it is not our ancestral DNA. And when a being comes with divine DNA into a broken planetary grid, then the planetary grid could experience really, like too much energy, and it could not handle it. It would not be beneficial. So in the past, we were sending, one being at a time who could definitely change the world by being here, but we could not have too many. Now, when you and me came into this world this time, the planetary grid already was being so repaired and prepared by all the millions of people who came before us, who knew that this was the problem, and we called them the grid workers. And basically, each one of us is a grid worker. The way that it works is that when you are born on the planet like the Earth, your cosmic DNA plugs into the planetary grid, and in perfect balance, the planetary grid recognizes that high vibration has incarnated. And if it's just the perfect amount of energy, the planetary grid is being lifted up by each one of us. Like, Patricia Coda-Robles calls it the acupuncture needle. So each one of us would be an acupuncture needle. Imagine all of us around the world, all the many who, came into this incarnation, for example, plugging into the planetary grid and being the perfect vibration that is not low, where you meet the status quo of the planet, but you actually are high enough to uplift all life with you. Not in a dramatic way that would be not beneficial, like really frying the grid, but just the perfect, really divine electricity coming through you, and divine magnetism through your cosmic DNA. So in this lifetime, this was a successful operation, and we are always working with cycles. We always have to work with cycles. So that means cosmic cycles allow for openings. When the halls and portals open, that's when we can actually return the earth back into the divine matrix. And that's what exactly happened just now after 11/11 and through the December solstice, of course. So this is like the biggest transformation of all life since the fall. And the fall really was these beings trapping the world and trapping our fourth dimensional astral plane and creating reincarnation. So we are now in a whole new world. So you and me have experienced unbelievable genetic upgrades. And again, we are talking about actually leaving behind ancestral DNA, which was useless in, many cases. But we now have the divine DNA. So we, in our physical bodies, have actually liberated the physical body from the false matrix. And this all started massively actually happening in 2020, but there were 3 years of preparation. There was a cosmic cycle that really came into this incredible opening in 2017, and that when many people met Divine Mother, I met her also in 2017 in August, when we had a huge alignment in cosmos. And so that is, for us as a collective, 2017 was the big bang. And then it just, accelerated. 2020 was a huge liberation of our physical bodies, and 2024 was a massive upgrade from ancestral DNA to our divine DNA. So you can imagine how there is a symbiosis between the planet, Maravati, and our cosmic DNA. Because we plug into her, we are no longer just a human person in a body, we are fields of DNA. So we have seen some images here that I have shown, that we are walking fields of DNA. The DNA is all around us. It's a big field of light and geometry and solutions from the divine reality. So this is our purpose for being here, is to be in the planetary grid, which now is receiving our divine DNA through us simply being here. But at the same time, together we have uplifted the planetary grid so that now we are in a new place in the universe. This is so huge, and I know that it all might sound like so science fiction and maybe too much, but it's good to know, because we are outside of the fallen reality, which means our cosmos has changed, our universe has changed, our solar system has changed, and no longer are Archons sending the programs of suffering that were emanated into humanity. No longer do we have the manipulated electromagnetic field. And so you could say we are now free, but we have to realize it. I think that's the only problem that we have as humanity, or challenge maybe, that for millions of years, and of course just in this lifetime for decades, we only knew one thing, unless we meditated ourselves out of this, and that is this world that has just ended. So the new world requires completely blank slate. And of course we are beings of habit, but we formed all our habits within the false matrix. So the way we think, the beliefs that we have, the things we do, the things we don't do, it all was formed within the prison system. So again, because the prison guards and the creators of the matrix, they didn't want to be known. They didn't want to be seen. They wanted to operate constantly behind the scene so that they gave us the illusion of freedom. But that was not freedom. So what is it now? Now is the time to truly go within like never before, every single day, and realize the new. One way to do it is to every day connect with the earth herself through our feet. Now, in the past, many mystics said, don't stand upon the earth with your bare feet. And they were right, because it was all before 2017. So 2017, again, was like the biggest coming back of Divine Mother revelation. It had to do with the cosmic cycles. And ever since then, it just has gotten better and better and better. And now it's the best and will be even better. Now, when you connect with the earth now with your feet, she will give you her new reality. And her new reality is now obviously co-created by all of us being here. Plus, she's in a new place in this universe. Plus, she's getting new energy from the solar system. Plus, she's not getting these fallen codes from the Archons. Plus, the false matrix has been dissolved. So, the new reality is now emanated to us through 3 sources. Number 1, the planet Maravati. Number 2, nature all around us. Nature is always the fastest one to adapt, of course, because she is of divine nature. And then, of course, cosmos. And whatever that is, cosmos, every day connecting with cosmic energy, natural energy, planetary energy. Those 3 sources that we have always known to be the source of divine intelligence, especially when we embodied here originally on Maravati in freedom. So the big changes, let's take a look what else we have here. I wanted to just quickly go through a few slides, and we'll be meeting every day now for the next 3 days to go through these big changes and how we can definitely adapt, right? Because that's definitely a huge change. And also, what happened to the forces of darkness? That's a great question. So first of all, I wanted to thank all of you. It was actually in the end, about 500 of us around the world. I only got the little snapshot here of the US and Canada. When we played the song of Maravati together to her outside in nature, the song of remembrance. We will do that again on the new moon, which is also the new year, which is how Mu operated. We had the calendar that would be either lunar calendar very often or natural calendar of cycles. And so the Chinese calendar is still very much the calendar of Mu. And that means on the 29th of January, in Australia, that would be on the 30th of January, and New Zealand, of course, we have a new moon, and we will use the energy of the new moon to once again synchronize our service to this rising Maravati and play her song of remembrance. And I will send a form so that everybody can again enter the city, the state, and the country. And we will create a globe where we will see everyone all around the world. So as far as I could tell, we didn't have anyone in Asia, but we had everyone all around the world, everywhere, who played the song at the same time. Kristen Hoffman, who beautifully sang the song of Maravati as it came through us. And she said that not only Divine Mother came through, but the angels came through. We will be working with Kristen, who is, Juilliard-trained opera singer, but she's this incredible, really channel for divine tones. She said the angels came, and she will be working with us and also with the people who follow her to create global events where she will also sing Maravati live. And it's just going to be incredible movement. I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful that even, this team made it possible and that this came together so beautifully. So play Maravati to Maravati every day if you can. If you drive, sing Maravati. Have Maravati playing often, at least once a day, because this is really about this world as she returns to her original self. You can share the Maravati song. Right now we have it on YouTube, if anyone can put it in the chat, but Kristen will also, we have the final version, which is, the most refined version of every sound, and I believe that will be available today already. And actually Kristen texted me a few minutes ago, so I'm gonna take a look. So if you go to Kristen Hoffman Bandcamp, so if you just Google Bandcamp Kristen Hoffman, the song is already up in the final, most refined version. We worked, with masters of sound who made it sound even more pure than what we had before. So you can download it and play it there, and it will be really returning the earth to her original place within this universe. So let's take a look at it. Thank you, Gurga. Thank you so much for posting it. I suggested to Kristen that, people also are able to make a little donation, even if you donate $1 to Kristen. And of course, we paid Kristen, but at the same time, I think there is a wonderful relationship that we can call gifting. And so I suggest that. It's not necessary, though. And so we have been guided by this incredible being that we knew as Yogananda, who, of course, is an emanation from Divine Father, Divine Mother, who have been guiding humanity for so long, really since the beginning of life on planet Earth. And we will go into more and more detail of all of this. But I wanted to say, I spent a lot of time meditating with Yogananda in this lifetime. And of course, these beings are still available to us in the ethers, and now more than ever before. And when we attune our energy enough to these beings, they can guide us and give us initiations and really help us with the complete liberation of our physicality, our nervous system, and our senses. And it was Yogananda who told me in March last year that there is a new way for us to meditate that will be aligned with these new energies, and he called it the spiral. And so first he initiated my spiral in March, and it was a spiral that would be moving from the base of the spine, and it would start rising clockwise up around the spine and moving through all the new centers. We have new 12 chakras that go even beyond the body, and this spiral would be rising in an ever expanding vortex up into source, and then from source the spiral would reverse and it would go counterclockwise and start coming down and come back again to the base of the spine. And so this is the meditation I recommend practicing now. I'm working with some artists who will be able to create the animation for this, but for now I created a little visual here for us. It's not perfect, but it's definitely just to show us. Our spine, once again, is absolutely important, right, to the rising and descending of this energy, as well as our sacred heart. We are an energetic system that is receiving and transmitting, and the receiving and transmitting happens through our spiral, as well as our open, loving heart. And so I would pay attention to the spiral within, that now when you meditate for a few moments a day. Also, our meditations will change so much, because in the past we had to break through the veil, we had to break through the false matrix. It was a miracle when a being could actually break through. It was the most improbable outcome of our existence, to be able to break through the illusion, to break through the firmament that was separating the earth from divine reality. Very few actually were able to do it. It was too firm and disconnecting us too perfectly from divine reality, but of course a few managed. And so meditation was like having a hammer, and you had to hammer yourself out of these incredible traps. But now we are in a new reality, and in this new reality we have new tools. And so the spiral now also will be very easily connecting us to source. So I recommend, from all the wonderful tools, to practice the spiral. And I originate the spiral at the base of the spine, but of course you can do it like you see here in the picture, below your feet, it doesn't even matter. And to have the spiral simply move clockwise, ever expandingly into source, and then bring the energy of source into your own being, counterclockwise, spiraling back down. We are in a new design. This new design is no longer the design that we had until really a few days ago. And so this is a new world, new tools. This is very interesting because, of course, now the entire process that we call death is transformed. No longer is there reincarnation through karmic debt, through the wheel of karma. We are now in a ascending spiral design, which means embodying no longer through just birth into a planet, but also through conscious manifestation. So this is a whole new world with unbelievable possibilities. So it's important to know we are in a ever ascending spiral design. So let's take a look at the beings of darkness. Yeah, you can do the goddess spiral, of course, with Isis and Cobra, because of course Cobra knew. And so we are in that design. So every day, just get your spiral going. I do it even when I'm laying down. Chanting Om, still a great idea. Chanting the song of Maravati, great idea. Attuning ourselves to these higher realms. So, once upon a time, we all knew this language. And so Maravati is not something that I made up. It's actually what the earth was called by cosmic language, in higher realms, and she is still called that. So Maravati. So we are just simply now in a liberated design, and we have to be patient with ourselves, because we will catch ourselves still thinking the old way, because it was a big habit, of course. So unless you're a little child, you probably have habits of thinking and habits of believing. So the ones who have been dying since 2020 are not stuck at all. They are actually completely evolving. I got to visit the death space myself several times, I would say hundreds of times, through a practice that is a yogic practice of leaving the body. Not exactly what people call astral projection, but a yogic process of actually being able to separate your identity from the body and the senses and to go into the realms of divine reality. And so I've been witnessing how these beings like Yogananda have redesigned the death space, or death, it's a silly word too, because we will let go of that word too. This will be transcendence. This will be completely free will transcendent system. That's the only way that it makes sense. And that means we will get to choose. Our energy will get to choose where we go and what we do. And no longer will it just be the lower astral that will trap people and give them the illusion of heaven and hell. Now it's a transcendent system, and so it's about our energy will be the rocket. So when you see the spiral, that will take us wherever the energy best matches a world, a reality, a realm where we can continue to actually expand. And that is so huge. So let's take a look at the beings of darkness, and I think this will be the last time I will speak about them, since it is, just interesting to explain. So how I got to meet them. I got to meet them the way that Yogananda met them. So Yogananda said, everyone who will be liberated on this planet within the false matrix through a lot of meditation, and liberation means you actually remained in the false matrix, but you liberated yourself through a lot of Kriya Yoga. Now, people these days say we are awakening and somebody's awake and somebody's asleep, and I want to say how it works. It's not about our mind being able to suddenly say, oh, we are part of a huge reality and aliens exist and there is life in space. That is expanding simply our mind from a narrow mind to a more open-minded mind. But that's not awakening. Awakening, actually, when it is true awakening, refers to the awakening of life force that we have often called Kundalini, where the Kundalini was a coiled spiral energy at the base of the spine, and only often moved between the first and the third chakra. That was basically where the asleep energy moved. So the person then truly was not awake, because the life force was only moving from the body to some kind of pleasures and to the mind. The mind was in the third chakra. It was the limited dualistic mind. Very few people ever made it to live constantly with an open heart, which was the fourth level of our being. So then the Kundalini would move into the heart space, and that would be wonderful, but still not complete. To be fully awake, the energy would have to constantly be sustained in the whole multidimensional design of the being, which actually is 12-dimensional. So all of this became available to us through the unbelievable changes that took place, especially in 2020. So I experienced this in 2020, where suddenly the Kundalini, and it just happened completely, I always say randomly, during the day. I was, working from home, and when it happened, suddenly this life force became fully awake in all 12 dimensions. And so I just sat outside and I started to write it all down. I was just writing and writing and writing as the energy was completely awake. And I was able to see through all the 12 dimensions through my own body, which all is available to all of us, of course. And so when this happened, quite dramatic things started to happen. And that would be the visitation from these beings that Yogananda himself also encountered. And he said they will come and they will be face to face with you when you liberate yourself within the false matrix, of course. And he describes it in the second coming of Christ. So every single day I was visited by the beings that we know as the creators and the guards of the false matrix. And I just was so grateful to have my family around me who was able to handle what was going on, because it went on and on and on and on for actually more than a year since 2020. Until actually recently, to be honest, when the false matrix, of course, ended. So these guards of the false matrix, I couldn't have imagined it. If somebody would have told me that that's the true nature of our reality, I would think that person is totally crazy. But I was so grateful to find that Yogananda himself experienced exactly the same thing, and he was, of course, not the only one. So I can speak about the ones that I met to give you an idea, actually. It's pretty wild. So first, in 2024, in February, I got to actually experience the origin of evil. And this was while I was working with the Hopi people, and we were in Sedona, and we were really working on some planetary grids and bringing life back into the planetary grids of this Mother Earth. And that was the first time I actually saw how cosmic evil originated in oneness. And so with that, I want to say it was going to be reintegrated back into oneness. So when people ask, where are all the forces of darkness? They are in two places. The original forces of darkness, the ones that originated from Source itself, that caused this kind of mistake within creation, have been reintegrated into oneness. That is actually the only way to go back into the one, so that there is no separation. There is no, place we can send them and say, we don't want you. They had to be transmuted, transfigured, and reintegrated into oneness. And all of this took place in stages, of course. But the biggest success, of course, was 2024. So all is back into one source. However, of course, just like you have people in this world who are evil because they got poisoned by the evil energy, these people still exist in this world. So it's not like they suddenly vanished. So it's just the residue. But just like Patricia Cota-Robles, she explains it in her own language with her own vocabulary. But we see exactly the same theme, is that these beings no longer have the source that was actually fueling them. They do not have anything backing them up. So they might still try to be, what we call evils. They might still try to manipulate humanity. But this time, there is nothing behind the scene fueling them and giving them power. So this is the big difference. I do believe that we will see the falling apart that will seem like, crazy kind of nightmare, even possibly, because it has to look so nightmarish, like a nightmare that we have at night, from which we wake up and say, I don't like this dream. Because we are waking up from a dream, in a way, that we co-created too with our thoughts. And so now it's about gathering the energy within the spine that will wake us up fully and completely. If you ever have a nightmare and you have to summon life force to realize that you're dreaming, and you say, I don't like this, and then you wake up, this will be very much similar to that, because we are waking up. And the only way to do it, like I said, is summoning your life force through your spine and actually pulling yourself energetically from a nightmare. So these beings, of course, are still around, but the source of them, the power behind them that was fueling them, is back into one source. This is a very old story. You can find it not only in Yogananda's and Second Coming of Christ, which I always recommend reading or studying or listening to, but it's the same story of Sophia, which is Divine Mother, which is really Mahaprakriti, so that you see the different names. Mahaprakriti was actually from which Satan, the adversary, came. Now, we are talking about energies, but energies become beings. And so in Gnostic tradition, same story, Sophia accidentally, which is the true story, creates the adversary. And in Gnostic tradition, this being was called Yaldabaoth. And so this is the end of Archons. This is the end of evil. This is the end of the source of evil as we knew it, as the being that was called Satan. This is the end of this false matrix, which had this firmament around it. The firmament was known as the veil and was separating this reality from divine reality, but it reached into the astral sphere, of course, into the fourth dimension, and hence sending beings back into the wheel. And really, it is a wheel. It was a wheel, so there was no way out of it. The being that we called Satan, took on many forms, but one of the forms it took on was, of course, a spider. So, we know that the web of life is a web of life, but the false matrix is also a web. It was a matrix, but now we are in the divine matrix. So we could say that the dark spider was, and David Icke, he met this being too. So I met this being too, thanks to Yogananda. And this being was truly manipulating the fallen matrix, the false matrix, just like a web. So whenever the spider would move something, there would be a ripple effect for all of humanity. But it was so behind the scene. Very, very few people in this world have ever met the spider. David Icke was considered to be crazy when he talked about the spider. But as I was meditating, I asked Yogananda, I was begging him, I said, please show me the true nature of this reality. I want to know the true nature of this reality. And this was before, of course, the fall of the matrix. And he took me to the spider. And I saw violence, monetary system, disease, suffering, and all of it, our leadership, the power, the governments, all being manipulated from behind the scene by the spider being. And again, it's just a form, like a form of energy. And the being had unbelievable psychotic nature that I could not even describe. I tried to describe it. And what we would call suffering and pain would be his joy, his pleasure, I guess. Hard to call it a joy. So, but again, this was, this is the fallen being. So, many people said the matrix is a web, and it was. But there is a difference between divine matrix and the false matrix. So now we are in the divine matrix. Yes, the being did live, thank you, Gurga, from the energies of suffering. That's why it was using code. It actually, the 0 and 1 is the code of the fallen matrix. Everything that is this binary code of zeros and ones, the being was using technology to create this false matrix. So we were in a fallen matrix only of zeros and ones, whereas the true divine matrix actually has 9-digit code, including 0, so it would have to be 10, and that would be from 0 to 9, because 10 obviously already is a repetition of two numbers, it's 1 and 0, and so the divine matrix is coded from 0 to 9. So that's why some people say that we have 9 dimensions, but actually it's a 10-digit code. So now that we are in the new divine reality, it operates completely differently. So I met these beings. I have pictures of them because I met them personally, and this would be the visitations that we received here at home. When I experienced the activation of my rainbow body. So when my rainbow body was activated, it pretty much is our true nature. Our rainbow body is not some kind of achievement, but it became an achievement in the fallen matrix. We know every mystic in this world was actually attempting to activate and reactivate their rainbow body, which is the full-blown sovereign light body. Now, we knew from the mystics and from all the different traditions, it's not just Tibetans. It was all around the world. Even Jesus in his light body had a rainbow body. That's why we see a lot of pictures of Jesus in the rainbow. But there was actually, you would say, every single being, no matter what tradition, whether it is, mystic, yogi, shaman, Christian mystic, doesn't matter at all. The rainbow body applies to all of us. And that was the only way to become completely free from the matrix. And you could either disappear from it, just like many of the Tibetan monks have disappeared from the matrix, or you would remain in it, but then you would have your own sovereign field that would be a disturbance to the matrix. So when I became a disturbance to the matrix, it was pretty crazy. And so I got to meet these beings. So the number one being, I would say, seem to be the most powerful ones. And they are the guys on top to the left. They do have orange skin, just like all the fairy tales showed us. And this is not, I would say, imagination. This is not some kind of fairy tale. This is exactly what they look like. So I got to, obviously meet them in a very dramatic way. And I think this is what Yogananda described, that Satan will manifest himself to everyone who is liberated from the matrix. And he too met him face to face. And one thing that I found absolutely fascinating about these beings, it actually was a group of beings, they did not have any heart center. No heart center. They would have a hollow heart, which told me that there is no potential for them to actually evolve, and that they themselves, I would say, got rid of their hearts. That's just my assumption. I don't know if that's true or not. But if a being doesn't have a heart center, how can they receive source energy? How can they ever have the potential to become good again? And so to me that was like, whoa, these guys got rid of their heart centers. So that's the only way I think that someone can operate at this very, very evil level. Anytime these beings came into our house, I obviously could not go into fear, because fear would bring you back down into their level. And I can only speak about them today because I believe this is obviously the new world, so we can look back and say, whoa, that was really crazy. Now, I think most people didn't see them, but I would say everyone was affected by them. But somebody obviously did see them because they drew pictures, and even in your iPhone you will have, emojis that looks like the orange guys. So these guys, when they came, I would always try every single tool I had. But the most important tool that I had was, I am a child of God. And I could just repeating it in their face. I am a child of God. I am a child of God. And that really worked well. And I think that was the only protection when one really understood who we are. The other beings, and again, I hope that you just find it interesting to see what type of reality we lived in and what really ended. It's a huge cosmic drama. It really was the war of good and evil, the angels and demons, very much real. So there were other beings that I met. Also, they came to visit us here. And I would call them simply demonics. And they are the beings on the right on top. And they had human faces. All of these on the right on top, the demonics, actually to me they were fallen humans that really signed up, and that they signed up to be on the team evil. I saw many men and women, and they would actually all be always in black, but not like men in black, but I would call them demonic army, women and men. So some people say these are fallen angelics, and I think that's absolutely possible. So I just Googled images that would, show me exactly what I saw myself. And so this is the closest to what I found. I also found beings that I got to meet in 2020 that we call as probably grays. And they didn't seem to be as evil as all the other guys, but they had also a nefarious agenda here on this planet. And the things they did actually abduct people And I was shown exactly how they did it and where they took people and so on and so on. Not really worth going into the detail, but they did play a nefarious role in the false matrix. And finally, I met beings who came actually here into my meditation room where I am right now. When my light body was very, very expanded. The light body, when it is very, very expanded, it actually merges with the light body of the entire earth. And so I know that this is true also from Yogananda, that when your light body can expand so much, you can actually become one with the planetary body, and then you are one with all. And if you are, in your most expanded light body, you are actually a real troublemaker for the false matrix, because the light connects to the planetary body. So when I experienced that myself, I immediately got visited by the beings that you see here at the bottom on the right, and they are 100% what people call Draconians. So they have these faces that are absolutely exactly how you see it here in this picture. And the one and only beings that I didn't meet specifically that people speak about is actually Anunnaki. And I really never met Anunnaki as far as I know. But I do believe they also played an important role in the false matrix. But the Draconians, they actually are very, very nefarious. And they were the guardians, not guardians, it's not a good name, guards within the false matrix. And if anyone became liberated within the false matrix, they would be, of course, invisible normally, but they could manipulate humanity. The masses of humanity could have been manipulated by the Draconians. And I do believe that they are the beings who blocked our life force for every single one of us with actually implants, where they blocked the flow of what we call Kundalini to limit it to the bottom 3 chakras so that we could actually not experience our true nature, which is immortal. So I know from my personal meeting with them that they would place implants to the base of the spine, but also into the medulla oblongata in the brainstem. And that way they blocked the flow of life force so that it would be most improbable for a human being to actually experience liberation. Now this then became something that yoga, of course, I would say was like the antidote. And yoga, I don't mean, the postures. To me, that's, nice exercise to stretch, but the true yoga, which means unblocking these actual blocks, unblocking the base of the spine and unblocking the brainstem with techniques like Yogananda's Kriya Yoga, because it would have to eventually pop these implants open. Yogananda said that it was essential that that people know how to unblock the base of the spine. And he said, of course, all the avatars knew how to do it. So yeah, totally crazy, right? So that's exactly what they did. That's why Kundalini awakening, I personally don't love the term, because the Kundalini became dormant only because of these beings. So what I learned from the Draconians is that they used actually unbelievable technology. And one of the technologies that they used, which really, to me, it was like so crazy and mind-blowing, is mind control for all of humanity, life force energy control for all of humanity, but also they had technology that would be capable, and this I know sounds totally science fiction even beyond what I've just said, deleting our memories. So they had technology that could delete our memories. So let's say you would experience your own, we call it enlightenment, but again, within the false matrix, enlightenment was something different from what it really means. Even our spirituality was hijacked by the false matrix. So now it's the time for complete freedom. And so the Draconians, not only did block the spiral within us, and they blocked really our ability to know that we are immortal. They blocked our ability to remember our continuum. Let me try again. Continuum. So then, you know, we started to think that we are defined by birth and death. They actually implanted, you know, thoughts into us of our identity. That's why people would call it false identity. And so now all of this is liberated. That's why now we can easily meditate with the spiral and connect to our divine source, to our divine self. That's why people are now in the I am more than ever before. This is the end of fallen spirituality. So to me, fallen spirituality, yes, everything was in the fourth dimension on the lower astral plane, and it was very military-like. So they did use things like the black helicopters, and, you know, today you see so many drones. I do believe most of the drones that people are seeing, they call it drones, is actually simply seeing into the fourth dimension and seeing the technology of these beings. So we are seeing through the veil, which, you know, is almost non-existent. So it's good to know these things, because now that, you know, the prison is no more, we are waking up from a big habit. And so the big habit is the only thing we need to shake off. So the way that I work with myself, of course, every day and all the time, is doing the spiral now, using the breath, chanting, constantly attuning to the divine self, and knowing that none of this was real. It was really televised. It was a program. And so now all we want to see is the divine reality. Within the divine reality, of course, we have new divine will. And we will be working with this meditation tomorrow. We are opening to our true identity through the pillar of light that goes through us, through this spiral of light that goes through us. And we are now downloading new divine will. It requires, of course, adjustment. Personally, you know, I see it all the time within myself. How we think about the world, how we think about who we are, who are we really? We are letting go of the illusion of the personality self, and we are stepping into our true divine identity. So who is the new you? Not defined by birth, because that was actually part of the false matrix. Birth as we knew it was invented in the false matrix. Death as we knew it was invented in the false matrix. This is so huge. And it became our status quo. We all, of course, believed it, because we were told this is how it works. But we were just told how the prison works. The false matrix wanted as many of us here as possible. The more immortal beings it could bring here and trap, the better it got for the false matrix. So now, you know, we'll have to do a little bit of work, a little bit of adjustment, but we have the tools. So this is one of the tools. It's for free online, so search for it, Opening to Your True Identity on Yogananda band. You can download it for free. And this is not only the only tool, of course, that I recommend, but I wanted to show one more thing before we conclude. And that would be, of course, remembering we are in a new divine reality. Within this new divine reality, we also have a mind that has changed. And we are now in a liberated state of being. I'm gonna just look for an image here. This is our new DNA. Our new DNA is no longer ancestral DNA. So we are letting go of the very tight, you know, just the little family ancestry. This is my family. We are expanding into fields. We are so much more cosmic now. In this cosmic matrix, the divine matrix, our minds still create. So now it's the time, and this, I think, is the biggest challenge. Shifting from the limited, habitual, false matrix mind into the completely unlimited, divine mind through our field to our divine self. We are now downloading solutions. They are really flowing through us in a spontaneous way. So the divine self now is the most important aspect of our being. This is beyond the soul. This is beyond the higher self. We are now in a whole new design, divine self, moving as light and love through the person, through the body. And the body had to change a lot. Since 2020, we've seen big changes in our physical bodies so that they can actually handle and withstand the light of our divine self, the I am, as it moves through this person, and we lose the identification. We lose the illusion, and we just become really the embodiment of the divine self, which is not exactly just the person. It's a divine human. Again, in higher realms, and I mentioned this many times, in higher realms, this new design, which is also the ancient design, is called Hercules in cosmic language. And we've known the story of Hercules, of course, Hercules, but that is the design of the divine human being. So the next 2 days, we will dedicate to actually coming up with all the tools that will be useful now. Because, for example, I really love YouTube because, when I work around the house and cook and do all those things, I like to listen to YouTube to see what people are seeing and hearing in these expanded realities. But a lot of it is still just describing the false matrix. So like 90% of everything you see online, it's just still operating as if the old matrix existed. So, what is the new? We need to have new tools, new way of operating in the new world. And so the next 2 days will be dedicated to these new tools. One of the things that remains really important is our ability to concentrate, our ability to imagine, and then to hold the focus on our imagination. So basically it is really concentrated thought will create reality instantaneously. The false matrix operated on the principle of dissatisfaction and satisfaction. It was using both polarities, giving us the illusion of satisfaction. It's like a happy prisoner and then unhappy prisoner. But the prisoner was not unhappy because he or she was in a prison. The prisoner was unhappy because the conditions in the prison did not deliver comfort. Whereas the happy prisoner had the illusion of happy prison because they liked the condition inside the prison. They said, oh, I've got a wonderful home inside the prison. But again, it was a prison. Great image. Love it. That's the field of solution. Beautiful. So now we need to move outside of the satisfaction and dissatisfaction. So Yogananda's Kriya Yoga. Yogananda's Kriya Yoga was really what would liberate a person from the fallen matrix. So I still practice Kriya Yoga, but there is also the new design, and that is the spiral. And the spiral has been liberated within us. We are in a new reality. We are attuned now to spiral, which is ascending, and it goes through the spine and around the spine, through the head, through the crown, into source and back. Try that if you don't know how to do Kriya Yoga, and you will have amazing results. So I'm gonna create the meditation for the spiral. I haven't seen it on YouTube, and it definitely is something that is a new design since really March last year, but now in full effectiveness. So the mind creates. The mind 100% creates, and in the past that was really misused by the false matrix. Let me find a picture. Where do we have the mind that creates? I don't know. We are becoming angels. We are actually going through the process of, you would say, even our light bodies changing so much. I saw Yogananda the other day in the higher realms, and he was pointing out the new structure of our light body. And so we are going through a process of becoming divine human angels. And that's without some kind of, like romantic idea. It actually is the shape and the structure of our light body that is now changing, and we are experiencing it in the ethers. And so our consciousness will be adjusting to the change as well. So since the mind creates, we just need to simply focus a little bit on a thought and then allow that thought to be visualized by our mind and then be created. This is now working so much faster because within the fallen matrix, of course, people came from, I'm dissatisfied, but I want satisfaction. So we had things, like the law of manifestation within the fallen matrix, but that was just, again, fallen spirituality. Now it's so much more that the mind, the divine mind, is a creator mind, and we have now free will like never before to create. So test it out. Be inspired. That's really the energy of the divine self. Inspiration. You see, the divine self doesn't come from need. That was the false matrix. Need was introduced by the false matrix. Desire was introduced by the false matrix. So now we cannot come from need or desire. Now it's the time to come from inspiration, to be as attuned as you can to your divine self throughout the day. And it is an adjustment. And then be inspired. And once you receive inspiration, hold it in your concentration and visualization, imagination, and allow it to gain momentum to be manifest. Anything is possible now. Yes. All the creative things, the projects, the health, the body. If you have challenges in your physical body, simply connect with your divine self and allow the divine self to manifest in perfection, not giving power to the false matrix which wanted us to be sick. The false matrix wanted humanity to be as sick as you can possibly be. It gave us sick food, chemicals. It gave us, poison water, soft drinks, just pure poison. So it worked in a deliberate way to poison us so much and to keep us here powerless and depressed and sick. And of course, some people managed to get really healthy, happy, and whole and well. But this is a new world. And so whatever you wish for yourself now, wish it for the world. This is the time to help this beautiful planetary community when you work on your own health, work on the health for all beings, but not coming from the need, coming from inspiration, So again, just to close with this, anything that comes from need, that means I don't have it, I want it, is still the false matrix. If we come from wholeness, knowing who we are as the divine self, which always is whole, which always has it all, which always is happy, whole, and free, and healthy, and all of it, then just connecting to the energy that is our truth. And the circumstances might not match the truth because the circumstances are still connected to the false matrix. Everything here is the result of the false matrix. If you listen to Patricia's vlogs that we are now co-creating with Patricia, then you heard, for example, Patricia is also saying the same thing. the planets that were emanating negative influences, which was really Archon AI technology, no longer emanate these programs. So we are in a liberated astrology. The old astrology can no longer work. So now, you know, we have the residue. So the only challenge we have is to look beyond the residue, which still manifests in our politics, in our economy, in our healthcare system, our educational system. That's all the fallen world still here. But we must just do one thing where the true solution is. And that is the divine self. I have not found anything that would be more powerful than the divine self. And if the world pulls on our sleeves and says, come this way, come into the illusion, we just have to go back into the pillar of light and say, hang on a second. I am aligning and waking up. So again, just waking up your energy, waking up. You know, I recommend doing Qigong if you can, because Qigong is attuning to the energy of the earth, the energy of nature, the energy of cosmos. And we are in this process together, and we are just helping each other to stay aligned with the light of the divine self, which always is a pillar. Okay, question. So when we post the videos on Patricia's YouTube channel, the YouTube channel actually is not monetized. But in some countries, when a channel is not monetized, YouTube puts as many ads as they want onto a video that is not monetized so that they make money. So I know it's really annoying. So I have not found a way to get around it, but we are working on it. But just so that you know, the channel is not monetized. So, yeah, FreeTube. I don't know FreeTube. Rumble, I don't like the energy of Rumble, so we went back at least to YouTube. Wonderful. So we will meet again at 5 p.m. But please join us if you can. For the next 2 days, we'll be working with tools. The tools that will get us completely outside of the illusion, which means nightmare has ended. Let's get out of it. And so the other thing is, of course, if you can join us again, we will play the Song of Maravati, all of us together around the world, which I find is amazingly, amazingly powerful, and play like never before. And that will be on the 29th of January for the Chinese New Year, the Year of the Serpent. Very interesting. Beautiful.